You rightly mentioned it is a complicated situation, and you also said that it started 76 years ago. This thing is not complicated. Everyone knows the history, but I don't know why people do not understand that this conflict did not start on October the 7th, 2023. It started 76 years ago. Why don't people understand this?
I don't think, Ovais, that it's always a question of not understanding. Media channels have become very much aligned. I also know from living in the West, the conditioning is very strongly one-sided. It's just that way. There are a few issues, for example, for the spokespeople on both sides. I mean, Israel is a country that's made up of so many immigrants from Western nations. You have a lot of British people there, a lot of British Jewish people, of course, and American Jewish and European Jewish. And they tend to be articulate. They have British or American or European accents. They tend to be well trained. Israel is a very slick state when it comes to its media. It takes control. It's very much, and you know, some people applaud that, of course, because it can get its message across very easily. So on the Western channels, when you hear, for example, someone of British origin, a British Jewish person who's now a spokesperson for Israel, what you hear is something that people in that part of the world can relate to. And for them, this British person saying that this is terrible, we have to go into bomb shelters every time Hamas's rockets or Hezbollah's rockets come, it's something they can relate to in terms of the accent, the appearance, mostly white European and so on. On the Arab side, on the Palestinian side, they're not all Muslim, by the way. There's a lot of Christian Palestinians. Yes. You have to remember, senior Palestinian negotiators and spokespeople like Dr. Hanan Ashrawi are actually Christian. So it's not really a Jewish-Muslim war, though it's to some degree maybe it is now with Hamas's ideology, but it's presented that way. And Israel is quick to point out that anything that people criticize about it is anti-Semitic, which again is not the case when you consider how many people who are Jewish criticize what is happening.
Yes.
The Palestinian side spokespeople, unfortunately, don't have the benefit of that kind of background. They have thicker accents and perhaps less command of the English language, and it's harder for them to get their points across succinctly. So there's a natural bias that sets in, certainly in the West, based on how people see and perceive the person who's speaking. I was with the BBC, and I sound totally British. When I was on BBC Radio when I first started, people assumed they were talking to a white British middle-class person. I was the first brown guy, I always joke, who was on the mainstream news on the BBC, and then at CNN too. And it's only, I think, because I sound so Western, people don't get sort of, let's say, they don't comment on it in what might be a negative way. So I think that's part of the perception. I don't think it's necessarily the media doesn't know. It's just conditioned that way.